Welcome to another episode of Love Unravelled. We have a guest with us today. She is our producer, actually. So I'm Holly.
I'm Isabel.
And this is
Abby.
Abby.
Oh,
little Abby.
Oh.
Isn't that weird to call me that?
Yeah.
So today we were going to talk about the way in which we measure our success, and actually how lots of places will. Because I feel like the obviously money, you need to be making money. And I think it's something that you don't hear a lot of people chat about. Actually, to be fair, Amy Smalley is someone, and the guy from Represent is like, obviously, this is a business. So you need to make sure that your growth is on the up each year. Mm-hmm. Especially for a startup, I know that is really hard to do. But had to have that steady incline.
Yeah. Steady being the operative word.
Yeah. So we had an insane first year where it almost caused bigger problems for us to sort of being able to catch up with our own success. But there are lots of other ways in which we measure success for us to kind of, as a sort of 360 view, other than just looking at our turnover and more importantly, our profit. So we have there's different elements in which we sort of track this success. So how often do we actually, because we should have these meetings more often, I feel like. I think comparative ones.
We meet. We have various meetings every single week, but the comparative ones, with deep dive, I feel like that should definitely become part of like a weekly or bi-weekly thing where you're comparing, year on year, season on season. So maybe like quarterly actually would probably be, or like monthly to quarterly. Yeah. Slightly like different levels. So like monthly, you can do that month in the previous year, but then the quarterly, so you can compare quarter before, but also quarter from the previous year.
I mean, I do it like monthly anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all
have our own way
the numbers,
yes.
And we all like look at different times and at different things and flag different.
We all actually track these different things separately, don't we? Which I kind of, when we were looking at stuff together, and Abby was like, actually, I've been doing the spreadsheet and I've been tracking all of this, and I've been doing the same, not as in depth as you. So I have a monthly tracker of like our key KPIs, which we are going to talk about in a second. But then actually what's been great, which we are going to talk about more, is the fact that we are sort of, we're in our 4th year, which is great for us to have that time to be able to analyse past data, which we've not had. And then that obviously helps us with our buying, but like product forecasting.
I think you mentioned as well at the beginning, it's really, really hard for startups to do and actually something we're going to do in this podcast is like debunking a lot of the jargon and what these things mean, and actually what you do with the numbers for them to be meaningful and usable and to improve stuff moving forward to ensure that you can have that upwards trajectory of growth. It's really, really hard for startups to do all of these things because you do need data, but actually the data in the first 3 years of Slow Love is really volatile because you're doing so many different things which affect. So, for example, the turnover from year 1 to year 2 was wildly different, but the profit was actually the same. So
that's so true.
It's if we were to look at some of the data based on turnover, that data would be really, really skewed. So you can't look at just one thing for growth. You do have to look at all of these different metrics to get a well-rounded understanding of what you need to change to be able to, increase the turnover, but also increase the profits. Because like you said at the beginning, ultimately, what all of these come down to at the end of the day is money.
Yeah. And you hear a lot of people talking about their turnover, but no one really will talk about their profit, will they?
No.
And my dad, you know, whenever he doesn't really ask me that much anymore, but he would be like, you know, how was your month or whatever? And I'd say, we turned over X. He'd always be like, what's your profit though? Like,
what did he call turnover?
Turnover is a vanity number, is what he always says to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's brutal, but
it is honest.
The truth, yeah.
If you're not looking at your turnover versus profit, then it seems like such an obvious thing, but you have to look at that disparity and then look at how you make changes to improve.
And I remember when I felt quite embarrassed, but I didn't. And actually, I've got this, like, I don't know what it is, but my memory with any figures is so bad. I can remember words and names and images, but numbers, it's like the number just goes from my head. It's just like a thing. I just can't ever remember anything. So I have to always keep like notes as like a reference point on my phone. And I remember my brother asking me when he worked for a company that's been, you know, long standing, like 20 odd years. And he asked me what our operating margin was. And I was like, I have no idea. But now I know, because I have all of those year-on-year figures. I have like a synopsis and I keep it as a note on my phone, just as like a reference point. And also the other thing that you and I always struggle with, it's not struggle with, but we sometimes ask like the basic question, even like with the accountant, but also when we're discussing sort of tax stuff or like growing, you know, opening different bank accounts, all that kind of stuff. And we were like, we want somebody to say, for a company of your size within your area, is this good? What does good look like? What does good look like? Because no one will tell you.
Yeah.
And it's a really frustrating thing. And actually, it's the Julie.
I was just about to say.
She was and it's interesting because she's the first person that said this to us without us having to be like, what does good look like?
Yeah.
Our accountant won't volunteer this to us. We have to it makes you feel like you're like fishing for a compliment.
Yeah.
We're not. We're like, we feel like this is going really well, but
is it?
Is it? Because all you read about is, you know, startups don't ever turn profits in their first year, or how does this look? Is our operating margin good? Because Adam told me that they were trying to hit a certain percentage, and our percentage is bigger than that. And if we're doing it and operating at that kind of operating margin, like within our third year, like that's pretty good, right? But then we work we're in a different area. So how is that good for our area? That's what we want to ask. And it wasn't until we had this meeting, and at the end of the meeting, and we felt like we were kind of being told off. Yeah. It always feels like you were slightly being told off. Yeah. But then to be fair to her, and this was a meeting with this like woman who worked for this bank, our accountant, sometimes there might be like, you know, someone else in the meeting, and she was like, you need to know what a good job you're doing. Like, no one gets this far. You're in such a small percentage. Yeah. But it's really hard because you have no indicator, which is what we're getting to the point, is that we have these figures to give us an indication for forecasting and all the other stuff, but also it's like, okay, but then you just also still want someone to say, you know, for a clothing e-commerce brand in their fourth year, this is what their operating profit margin should be, or this is what they should be doing. Well, this is what good looks like. This is what average looks like. This is what like working towards looks like. That's almost what you want to be told. Yeah,
it was. But at the same time, I think if you're a startup and you're listening to this, Julie specialises in credit ratings, basically, for businesses, and she looks at how you can improve that, what you've done wrong, or but lots of the points that we had done wrong, we wouldn't have been able to get to where we are without doing those. So she wasn't like, you shouldn't have done that. It was like, this is what's affecting you, and the only thing that's going to make that better is basically time. So kind of carry on doing what you're doing.
One of those things as well was just literally because we were 3 years old.
Yeah.
goes against
How
us.
can you do that? How do you
grow?
That?
How do you grow without, like, when basically
without being 3 years old?
The
it's
first
so silly.
the first roadblock is, well, you're never going to get past this because you're only 3 years old. And we've literally said in meetings, like, how do people grow their business then without being given money by their parents, which hasn't been the case, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's like, or given money by external investors.
Yeah.
But it's nuts.
Yeah, it is really tricky. So, and actually that kind of brings you back to steady growth. I think one of the things that really did shoot us in the foot was that we grew too quickly. In the first 2 years, the growth was too quick, which meant that we had to borrow at a high interest rate, for example, and that has come around to bite us, but we couldn't have done it without that. So we had to do one thing to affect another. But with regards to how you look at that advice and look at those numbers, is we said right at the beginning of the pod, steady growth is actually the key. So we kind of had to go, we can't spike that quickly again because it will be so detrimental to the rest of the business, basically. So there's a lot of juggling act. So I think we do look at year-on-year turnover, but we do look at year-on-year profits against that turnover, and ultimately the disparity between those two numbers is what's important to look at the metrics that we're talking about. So I think Abby and Holly can do a really good deep dive and debunk, talking about things like sessions, conversion and visit. I mean, we had a meeting the other day and I still had to remind me what each of those things are and how they link together. So what are those things?
Yeah, so like obviously like monthly we look at these things. If we have sales, if we have drops, we also look at these things. It's not just like we look at it once a year and that's that. We're always looking at it. So sessions is the amount of
visits.
Abby's
about to go through what our KPIs are, and the KPIs are key performance indicators, which are all the different figures that we will. So especially like we say, we do a drop or a sale. All weekend, the three of us literally are like screen grabbing the like moving KPI figures because it's so fascinating. But Abby is about to explain what all of those are if you don't know.
Yeah, so visitors is the amount of people that have come to your website in that weekend or time frame. Sessions is then the amount of times the amount of times people have clicked onto your website. So often those two numbers are different. Sessions will be higher than visitors because sessions is like if they've come back because you've got a sale on or a drop and they're like, oh, I'm not sure, then they come back again and they've been on multiple times. That's then how that's different. So we measure that, but we also then measure the why that's happened, why we've got more, why we've got less. So we'll also then look at, okay, how much have we spent on marketing? How much have we spent on ads? Have we paid influencers? Have influencers posted? Have we done a lot more on social media? There's like all of those different things that come into why that is so high or low or whatever.
Would the click rate for like our newsletters, for example, if you just say you had put lots of stuff in a newsletter with this talking about a sale, for example, can you measure the engagement on that newsletter, and then that might be why the visits and sessions are higher?
Yeah.
So that all marketing streams will affect those numbers?
Yeah, exactly. So like monthly, I go through our newsletters, and you have like click rate, open rate. You can kind of measure the amount of orders you've had. You can measure the amount of like money you've made from those. It's always not exactly 100% because
all the different platforms will skew the data.
Yeah, because somebody might have clicked through an email but then bought later on because they've seen a Facebook ad. So like it's not 100%, but it gives you good figures and you're about there. Like we obviously, if we have a sale or a drop, those newsletters are always much higher than just like an average newsletter talking about what Holly's worn. So like
boring stuff.
But you know what I mean? So you can see that there is a difference there. So I measure that all monthly as well. And then like measure the sessions with the website. And then I'll kind of put an overview of, we've had a really big spike in our sessions this month. this is why, because we've increased our ad spend, or we've had a big drop or a sale or something, and that's why it's increased. I also sometimes will look at, if you go on Shopify, there's almost like a graph like this that will have you can like change it to be whatever metric you want, but it could be sessions, visits, sales, whatever. And I'll kind of look and be like, why have we had a peak there? And what's happened that day? And there was one day where we had a semi-viral TikTok, and that day the sessions had peaked quite a lot. And I was like, why have they peaked? And it was because of this TikTok. Or an influencer might have posted about us and we've had a peak. And it's like all of those little things are the why, and that's what's really important, to go into why that's happened, not just write the numbers down, because then you can kind of grow on it.
And then it's what you do with that why. So, for example, if you saw that spike, an influencer had been talking about a Tutti Frutti jumper, we would then act on that and then maybe do a few posts about the Tutti Frutti jumper, reshare some stuff. So it's kind of looking at the numbers, finding the why, and then acting on the why.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, we also, it's not just Shopify we're measuring these, it's on the email, on Klaviyo, Instagram. I also will look through our like month and be like, oh, we've had a peak in followers that day. Why? Is it we've done a giveaway? Is it an influencer's posted? So there's all of those little things which really makes a difference to your growth, and then how you continue it. And that's kind of what we then look at, and we'll be like, okay, that worked really well, so we're going to do that again. Like with our recent sale we did a earlier access sign up, which didn't work.
Did we?
But that increased our newsletter subscribers, which then means we've got more people we can market to. So we're going to do that again.
Yeah.
But it's going to work this time.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a tech fail, which we can't help, can we? It's out of our hands.
Yeah.
So with regards to the sessions, conversion and visits, within those numbers, you can look at how many of those are returning customers and new customers.
Yeah, so there's so many things you can look at on Shopify, like literally from what people have ordered that day, like product, like there's so many. If you go through all the metrics,
we love to view like the what's selling, like our best sellers.
But returning customers and new customers is a really important one we also look at. So if we've had just through the month or through a drop or anything, we'll be like, okay, how many new customers have we had? How many returning customers have we had? And it's really important to see those numbers, because it's actually quite interesting, because we looked at the last few years, and in the first 2 years, the new customer rate was, I can't remember. It was I think the returning customer rate was higher than the new customers. But now we've got more new customers coming in, but also that returning rate is still increasing, and it's almost 50%.
I mean, both numbers are really important, but there's a really interesting metric around like the cost of a returning customer buying versus the cost of a new customer.
Yeah.
So it's getting that balance right.
Yeah. It's so worthwhile to nurture your customer that returns again and again. Which we talk about this a lot, but I feel like we've done it. We do lots of little things and include our regular customers. But I do think one of the things we do best is the customer service, is in making sure that they feel heard, and like there is kind of a bespoke service, really. I'm sure if I posted this clip on our Instagram saying this, we'd get some people being like, but you didn't return my email once when I emailed in. That it might be the case it went into the junk, but there is so, there's a reason that people come back. Obviously quality is number one, but I do think the customer service is, it's really important to me that we basically bend over backwards, which is what we've done from the beginning.
100%, and that is definitely one big reason, and because the knitwear's sick.
Yeah, obs.
And trust. I know we talk a lot about trust. but doing all of these things is, yeah, I think trust is a huge part of it all. And then, so returning customers and new customers, and then with regards to things like sign-ups for our newsletter, followers versus engagement, which I feel like is something that has changed so massively in the last 3 years. Would you agree?
Yeah.
As in the importance of followers versus engagement.
Yeah. So that's, again, something that's really important to measure. So obviously getting new followers is great and it's something we want to keep doing. But also making sure you're still doing those kind of posts that are getting people to engage and you're still talking to your audience. So like when I'm planning our week of what content we're going to be posting, I might be posting something about a new product that's launching. I'll be getting Holly to talk about it, show the detail, because that's something that's going to help sell the product. But then we'll also do something funny that's engaging, that people love to see, and that increases our engagement. It makes people laugh. It makes people want to follow us still.
And also, I think where our designs are done in house. You know, they are. We will do stuff that people know and recognise, but we also do stuff that's like completely new. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a really fresh. Like that's hopefully why people like to follow us, because they know that we are going to deliver something new and exciting that maybe hasn't been validated anywhere else.
Yeah.
But what I love is that all our customers know that we don't take ourselves seriously, as an office vibe. Mm-hmm. We take their product very seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. Yeah. And it makes it really fun.
That followers versus engagement number, I think, is really similar to the turnover versus profit. Like, following is a vanity number. Engagement is where your profit's at. Like, as in, if you could have a massive following, but if your engagement's down, kind of what's the point of a massive following? So like juggling that I do think it is something that we do really well, but also because I feel like, and I have said this before, when customers listen to brands going, we really want to hear from you, we really want to do this, we really want to do that, we actually really do. Like, it's such an important part of like that the community that we have, and feedback and engagement on our stuff, and we do use those metrics so much. So we are really not lucky. We've done a really great job, I think, of nurturing the customers so that they are really engaging with our stuff.
And it's also like there's so many like big brands that they have loads of followers and like they've literally got like 10 likes and their content's not interesting because they don't need to so much, but we obviously do. That's how we've got people involved, and people are excited when they see our content. It's like when we do the vlogs, people do love to watch them and like to listen to us yap on the podcast, because it's like they're part of it and they like to be involved. And then like when we went to the Hoxton and we did that event, like we were talking to customers like we knew them, and they were talking to us like they knew us because they did. And like they know what we've done last week because we've spoke about it so much, and it's just it's a really nice community that we've created here. And I think like that's something that's been really important to the growth of Slow Love.
I agree.
So I think I've written a load of stuff on our list, which is something that you have to do every year, but all of these things get better and easier with data. So if we think back to how we were forecasting and ordering in our first year versus now, making sure that those processes are becoming more refined and doing those things alongside measuring returning customers, etc., that's how the disparity between turnover and profit ultimately becomes better. You have to learn from mistakes or look at what you've done in previous years, which has or hasn't worked. So we constantly look at things like forecasting, how we ship our items, the timing in the year of when we order from our suppliers and get it shipped.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
Which is such a biggie, and actually has been one of our biggest KPIs this year, and that will be like a year-on-year thing that we have to improve. And by doing those things better, we have been able to increase our product offering, diversify, but also something which is a real first and really telling for the time in the business and kind of the success and what we're now able to do is we have recently had a meeting with a couple of external experts with so we're upgrading our Shopify and having a meeting with somebody where their offering, one of the companies offering to us was really, really big. And we were able to look at what their offering was and go, if we look at our growth from year one to now, we think that we could work with a business like this in like 10 years. Then being able to step back and say, we need to put in a solution which will get us from year now to the next 2 to 5 years. And that understanding of where your business is at, I think about, could we have done that 2 years ago? And we couldn't have done that. We couldn't have made that decision. So kind of those things are really telling of like good, decent growth and knowing where you are with, improving back-end systems or having to get external help, getting yourself from X amount of turnover to this amount of turnover in a certain period of time. I feel like that was really, really waffly. I hope it makes sense. But looking at all of those things, forecasting, shipping, timing of ordering, etc., is really important, and bettering them.
I think a really good example of a KPI which we have really been working on improving is our conversion rate.
Yeah.
And a really obvious measurement of that success was the sizing page.
Yeah.
Our conversion rate since the sizing page, I can't remember what the figure is off the top of my head, but it has gone up by a really big percentage, which was a target that we had to hit by next financial year, deadline.
Yeah.
From that roadmap.
Yeah.
And we are definitely on our way there, which is amazing.
I remember when you first did that roadmap with a consultant that you were working with at the time. And I remember when I was first looking at it, or you sent it to me, and I was it's so overwhelming and so oh my God. And then it's all of a sudden you're doing it. Yeah. It's like, God, we're actually doing it. And it's telling of we are really serious about looking at all of those things and being really honest about when stuff is overwhelming. Literally yesterday, we are with this upgrade to Shopify Plus and all of these different things that we have to put in place to be able to get us into the next stage of growth. I stood up at the end of the day and I was like, God, I feel a bit scared by doing these. And Holly was like, you can't think about this. And also sometimes in these periods of growth, it's really hard not to look out that way and be like, oh my God, there's so many moving parts, but actually just remembering we need to achieve this first. And that little thing is actually really achievable. Try not to do that because that's where the overwhelm comes. Be mindful of that, but actually just focus on what you need to get over the line.
It's like climbing up a really, really, really high... If you were to climb up a ladder to get to the top of a crane, and you're climbing up a ladder, this is what you were doing yesterday. You're climbing up a ladder and you need to just think about where your foot's going in and the bar you need to hold on to next, and look up just to think, this is where I need to go. But don't look down. And it was don't look around you and don't look down because it feels very overwhelming. But actually all we need to do is these steps.
Get to the next 5 rungs, basically.
Yeah. It was we had this spreadsheet and it was all these things, all these questions and stuff. And I was like, okay, but what actually do we need to do to make this happen? Because we can do that after and we can do that now. So let's figure out what needs to happen so this...
But that's why we work well as a team.
I think. I had a little and Holly was like, calm down. And Abby was like, don't be a wimp. And I was like, cool.
Yeah. I was like, so you need to do this. So can you do it by this date? Because this needs to happen.
Yeah. You were like, I know I'm being a bit of a pussy at the end. And I was like, thing is, you just need to remember what that person actually said to you. And you said at the beginning of this meeting that they said, actually, it's not that big. You need to think about it. I was like, that's exactly what you need to do. And Isabel was like, I know I'm being a pussy. And Abby was like, yes, stop being a pussy and just get on with it.
I know. I did need a bit of a word. I also think it's because we've had such a weird working month where actually we haven't really been together that much because of Pauliness and holidays. Summer is such a weird working time. We're never on our own in Slow Love. It's a combined effort from everybody at all times, which is nice. And actually, that is also such a huge thing with success and metrics, is the way your team gels and the way you work together is so important. Because if there's breakdown in relationships, it's really, really hard to do these things well and feel supported. Throughout growth. You have to all work well as a team. And also, I said this actually, I think on the last podcast, but like ultimately, we're not saving lives here. Yeah. Like what really doing it at the size that we are, there's not that much that can go wrong. Yeah. Touch wood. Yeah. Sometimes it all does feel really, really big, but you do have to. That's such a good analogy about climbing up the ladder. Don't look out, just look. Be aware, but don't focus on the too bigger picture. What's really exciting and watch this space is product offering and diversification. I think is a really exciting new thing over the next few years. And we've been able to get to this place by doing all of these things slowly but surely, and regular catch-ups, regularly looking at the data and keeping notes. And I think it does help that we all look at slightly different things at slightly different times. Even just I do a lot of work, I'm in the bank accounts quite a lot. So literally seeing the way the money moves around at different times of the year is also such a, important thing to have your eyes on, which seems like such a simple thing, but all of those things do really, really help.
That is an important point, actually, because I remember we planned a product drop around when the VAT return is, because it's we needed it to be in that month or whatever to work well with that. So those little things are all important.
Of those stuff is,
which you're very clever at.
Well,
not so much me. I don't know what you're on about when you talk about that.
Well, that's why everybody works well together, isn't it?
I feel like this is now just us basically saying how amazing we are. So I think we should round it up. People are going to be like, I'm not listening to those bunch of bitches anymore.
Yeah.
I think something that we do really want from the podcast as well, especially on these types of podcasts that we do, we really would love to have questions. Yeah. So if you've got any questions on stuff like this, we might not be able to answer you immediately because there's lots of stuff obviously going on, but we will always be really, really happy to.
I think that's the thing. It's the reason that we talk about this so openly is I think a lot of people, we definitely had no one to chat to about this stuff. Did we? And lots of brands will just never give you any information like this. Yeah. They would never openly say we're just about to upgrade to this, and this, because they don't want people knowing.
Yeah. But why?
I know. I don't know.
It's a weird one. It's not that deep. But even down to things like, where can I find that report on Shopify? What should I be looking at?
Yeah.
How do I change this to look at this? And some of those things are really simple, but if you don't have a team, we know so many little small brands that don't have a team yet. And actually can you imagine doing this all on your own now in year 4?
I wouldn't be there. I mean, that's the truth of it. Yeah. But then I know that. I know that I can't do that.
Yeah, that's a good, knowing that you can't do it all is.
I would make such big mistakes.
Yeah,
I know, mate. But I'm not an accountant, so
yeah.
I'd love to see Pete Pete, if you're listening to this,
Pete design.
This is not in any way a diss, but I'd love to see Pete design some knitwear.
Yeah.
Or Charlie.
Aces and places. That's such a good thing.
Yeah,
You've got to put
exactly.
aces and places to be able to grow.
I mean, I couldn't design a piece of knitwear. I know that for a fact. No way.
You know what you like though, don't you?
Yeah, I'll put it on and I'll be like, yeah, this is nice, but there's no way. There's no way I could design a piece of knitwear.
If you're a small brand and you want some really raw feedback,
Yeah.
Abby's your
gal.
Let me think of a would you rather, because when Abby's on, I always want to do an absolutely disgusting one because they're just funny. Would you rather like let a dog like lick your mouth, like lick your teeth, lick your gums, or sit in the office naked for a whole day with all of us working here?
Oh, that's actually really hard.
Oh god, that makes me feel like have you ever had those dreams where all of a sudden you're just like in town or whatever and you're just butt naked?
Yeah.
Oh god, I have those all the time. I wonder what that means.
You just like being naked, mate.
Well,
So-
not in the centre of town, are they?
Yeah. I feel like this is really hard because the dog thing is really gross and I was going to go for whatever was next. But it'll be over in like a second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you could just wash your face.
that's true.
Also, the dogs aren't as germy as cats, are they?
Don't they have like really good like antibacterial tongues or something?
Yeah, but they lick. I mean,
They
I was
lick
looking
their,
after
like,
my
literal shit
parents'
and
dog the other day, and
bubbles.
she took a shit and literally turned around and just licked the mucus off the top of her poo. It was disgusting. I like ran into the house and I was like, "Kids, keep your face away from Etty because she has literally just devoured her own feces. It's
That's
disgusting."
disgusting.
Yeah.
So when you say that, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe
Yeah.
I would just rather sit butt naked in the office.
Or
Yeah.
when like dogs are like a bit sick and they just eat the sick fuck
Yeah,
up. And you're like,
gross.
firstly, thank you because then I don't have to scoop your sick up, but
Also gross.
it's so
Yeah.
gross.
So let a dog lick your mouth or come to work and it's like you're in a bad dream and you're just all of a sudden butt naked.
Yeah, I think I'd just sit butt naked because I think you guys have seen it all before, really, haven't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, to be fair.
And
When Abby has some of her thongs on, it's basically like she's naked.
Yeah, X-rated thongs. When she was doing try-ons and stuff in the office, I was like, oh,
they're just lacy. But it's comfy.
Abbo, we're not filming a porno today.
On that note,
On that note,
thank you for
thanks
listening.
for listening.